The laugh came easily to him, sharp and dismissive, the kind that had ended conversations and crushed hopes for decades. It echoed off the glass walls of the unfinished tower, high above a city that glittered with money and desperation. Below them, traffic crawled like a nervous vein, unaware that up here, a boy with dust on his shoes had just said something that no one had dared say in years. "I can fix this." The millionaire barely looked at him before laughing, because men like him had learned one truth early in life: belief was expensive, and he had already paid too much for lies. The boy stood still, clutching a worn backpack to his chest, eyes steady despite the mocking sound. He couldn't have been more than 14. His clothes were too big, clearly hand-me-downs, and his hands bore small cuts and grease stains, the marks of someone who fixed things because he had to, not because it was a hobby. Around them, engineers and executives shifted uncomfortably, pretending to check their phones or notes. The project had stalled for months. Millions burned every week. Systems failing for reasons no one could fully explain. Lawsuits looming. The tower was meant to be the crown jewel of the city, and instead it had become a monument to arrogance. The millionaire, Armin Hale, had built his empire on control. Control of markets, people, outcomes. He had grown up poor, clawed his way out, and promised himself he would never be powerless again. Along the way, he lost patience for weakness, for hope without proof. His company dominated construction and smart infrastructure, yet this one project mocked him daily. A flaw deep in the integrated energy system caused cascading failures. Teams of experts from around the world had tried and failed. And now, somehow, this boy was standing in front of him, saying he could fix it. The boy's name was Samir. He had come to the site with his mother, who cleaned offices at night, because school was closed again due to power outages. He spent most days taking apart broken electronics in his neighborhood, fixing radios, fans, old phones, anything people brought him. He had heard workers talking about the tower's problems and listened quietly. When he saw the exposed systems during a brief site tour offered to workers' families, something clicked in his mind. Patterns others missed. A mistake so simple it hid behind complexity. Armin laughed not because it was funny, but because it was safer than admitting fear. He waved a hand, signaling security to escort the boy away. But something made him pause. Maybe it was the way Samir didn't flinch. Maybe it was exhaustion. Or maybe, buried deep beneath years of armor, a memory stirred of a time when someone had laughed at him too. 5 minutes, Armin said abruptly, surprising even himself. Say what you want. Samir spoke softly at first, words tumbling out faster as confidence grew. He talked about feedback loops, about a sensor placed where heat distorted readings, about how the system was overcorrecting itself into failure. He used simple language, analogies from broken fans and cheap circuit boards. The room grew quiet. Engineers frowned, then leaned in. Someone pulled up schematics. A whisper spread, cautious but electric. Armin felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Hope, dangerous and unwanted. He pushed it down. "You're saying all of this is because of one sensor?" he asked coldly. "Yes," Samir replied. "It's listening to the wrong place." They tested it. Slowly. Reluctantly. When the system stabilized, just for a moment, the room erupted. Not in cheers, but in stunned silence. Armin said nothing. He stared at the screens as if they might accuse him. The boy hadn't just fixed a problem. He had exposed how blind power could be. Armin dismissed everyone. He offered Samir money, more than the boy had ever seen. Samir shook his head. He asked instead for help fixing the power in his neighborhood school. Armin agreed, irritated by the simplicity of the request. The boy left, and the tower project resumed with renewed energy. But something inside Armin didn't resume. The laughter that once came so easily felt hollow now. He began to notice things he had ignored, the tired faces of workers, the fear behind confident presentations, the emptiness of penthouse nights. He ordered upgrades to schools, then clinics, telling himself it was good publicity. Yet each act chipped at a wall he had spent his life building. Weeks later, tragedy struck. A sudden systems failure in another Hale-owned building caused a partial collapse. No one died, but dozens were injured. The media pounced. Lawsuits followed. Armin's board turned on him. Old allies vanished. Control slipped through his fingers like sand. In the chaos, he remembered Samir's steady eyes. The way he saw what others missed. Armin sought him out, visiting the cramped apartment where Samir lived. The boy was surprised but polite. Armin apologized, the word awkward and unused. He asked Samir to come work with his teams, to help prevent future disasters. Samir hesitated. He spoke about trust, about listening, about how systems fail when people stop caring about the smallest parts. His words weren't accusatory, just honest. Armin felt shame burn in his chest, sharp and cleansing. They worked together, an unlikely pair. Armin learned to ask questions instead of issuing orders. Samir learned that even powerful people could change, slowly, painfully. Projects stabilized. Safety improved. Profits dipped at first, then rose, built on something sturdier than fear. Years passed. Armin funded scholarships, not with grand speeches, but quietly. He spent time mentoring instead of commanding. When asked what changed him, he never mentioned the lawsuits or the collapse. He talked about a boy who said, "I can fix this," and meant more than a machine. On the day the tower officially opened, Armin didn't laugh. He stood beside Samir, now older, confident, still humble. The city glittered below them, the same and yet different. Armin knew redemption wasn't a single act, but a daily choice to listen, to believe, to be kind even when it was inconvenient. The story spread, not as a headline, but as a lesson whispered between people who felt unseen. That solutions can come from unexpected places. That arrogance blinds, but humility reveals. That kindness, once dismissed as weakness, can rebuild what power breaks. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that change is possible no matter where you start, let it stay with you. Share it. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Because kindness talks, and when we listen, unthinkable things can happen.